Danny Torres wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the broken coolant pump. 3 years working at Area 51, and this was his life. Fix things, check things, sign papers, go home, sleep, repeat. The underground facility stretched out around him like a concrete maze. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere in the distance, machinery hummed. Danny had clearance for most of the base, but he rarely saw anything exciting. Just equipment, just work. "Torres, you done with that pump?" The voice crackled through his radio. Danny pressed the button on his chest. "Almost. Give me 10 minutes." He tightened the last bolt and tested the pressure. The gauge climbed to normal levels. Good enough. Danny grabbed his toolbox and headed down the corridor. His boots echoed on the metal floor. Area 51 was not what people thought. No alien bodies in freezers, no flying saucers in hangars, just a lot of experimental aircraft and scientists who barely talked to maintenance workers. Danny had seen some cool prototypes, sure, but mostly he fixed air conditioners and replaced light bulbs. His radio crackled again. "Torres, we need you in Sub-Level 9. Danny stopped walking. Sub-Level 9? He had never been there. Did not even know it existed. "Copy that. On my way." He found the elevator and swiped his card. The panel lit up with floor numbers. He pressed 9. The elevator descended, dropping deeper than he had ever gone before. His ears popped. The toolbox felt heavier in his hand. The doors opened to a hallway different from the others. The walls were thicker here, reinforced. The lights were brighter and colder. 2 guards stood at attention near a security checkpoint. They checked his credentials 3 times before letting him through. A man in a suit waited for him on the other side. Tall, gray hair, sharp eyes. He extended his hand. "Mr. Torres, I'm Vincent Hall. Thank you for coming down." Danny shook his hand. "What needs fixing?" Vincent smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Follow me." They walked through a series of locked doors. Each one required Vincent's keycard and a retinal scan. The air grew colder. Danny could hear his own breathing. "How long have you worked here, Danny?" Vincent asked. 3 years. "And you have a perfect record. Never asked questions, never talked about your work. That's good. That's very good." Danny did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. They entered a large room filled with control panels and computer screens. A woman with red hair looked up from one of the monitors. She wore a white lab coat and had dark circles under her eyes. "This is Dr. Lisa Monroe," Vincent said. "She runs the science team down here." Lisa nodded at Danny but did not smile. She looked tired, maybe scared. "The cooling system is against the far wall," Vincent pointed. "It's been running hot for 2 days. We need it stable." Danny walked over to the industrial cooling unit. It was bigger than the ones upstairs, more complex. He opened his toolbox and got to work. While he checked the connections, he noticed something strange. The cooling unit faced a wall, but that wall had a window. A thick window made of something that was not quite glass. And through that window, he could see another room. Danny tried not to stare. He focused on the coolant lines, but his eyes kept drifting to that window. In the other room stood something impossible. It was a circle. No, a ring. Massive. 20 feet tall at least. It was made of a dark metal covered in symbols that seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. The ring hummed. Not a sound you could hear exactly. More like a feeling in your chest, in your bones. And inside the ring was light. Not normal light. Colors that Danny had no names for. They swirled and pulsed like a living thing. "You see it." Vincent's voice made Danny jump. The man had walked up behind him without making a sound. Danny did not know if he should lie. He decided on the truth. "Yes." "Good. I was going to show you anyway." Vincent stood next to him, both of them staring through the window. "What do you think it is?" "I don't know. Neither do we. Not completely. We call it the gate. Lisa joined them at the window. She held a tablet computer. We found it in 1947, same year as the Roswell incident. Some people think they're connected. Maybe they are. Danny's hands had stopped working. He just stared. It's been sitting dormant for 70 years, Vincent continued. Just a ring of strange metal. Then 3 weeks ago it turned on. Turned on? Danny's voice sounded far away. Lisa tapped her tablet. It activated by itself, started generating that energy field you see. We've measured radiation, electromagnetic fields, quantum fluctuations. Nothing makes sense. It breaks every law of physics we know. We sent probes through, Vincent said. Small ones at first. Cameras, sensors. They either came back destroyed or did not come back at all. Danny found his voice. Through? Through to where? That's the question. Lisa pulled up images on her tablet. The few probes that returned showed glimpses of structures, technology, but nothing from Earth, nothing we recognize. The gate pulsed. The colors intensified for a moment, then faded back to their constant swirl. Why are you telling me this? Danny asked. Vincent turned to face him. Because we need you. The containment field around the gate is powered by this cooling system and 12 others like it. If they fail, the field fails. If the field fails, we don't know what happens. Maybe nothing. Maybe the gate collapses. Maybe it expands and swallows the whole facility. We can't let that happen, Lisa added. Not until we understand what we're dealing with. Danny looked at the cooling unit, then back at the gate. His normal job suddenly felt very far away. I can keep it running, he said, but I'll need to check it every day. Maybe twice a day. You'll have full access to this level, Vincent said. And you'll be read into the project. Everything we know, you'll know. But Danny, you can't tell anyone. Not your family, not your friends, no one. Danny nodded slowly. His life had just changed. He could feel it. Over the next week, Danny became part of the Gate Project. He learned everything. How they had found it buried in the desert. How it had sat silent for decades. How the activation had sent the entire base into high alert. Lisa showed him readings that made no sense. Energy from nowhere. Temperature fluctuations that should not exist. Gravitational anomalies that appeared and disappeared. Vincent introduced him to the security team. Karen Webb, head of facility security, watched the gate 24 hours a day. She had cold eyes and a firm handshake. She made it clear that if Danny ever became a security risk, she would handle it personally. Danny spent his days maintaining the cooling systems and his nights dreaming about that impossible light. The colors, the feeling it gave him, like standing at the edge of something vast and unknowable. On the 7th day, everything changed. Danny was running a diagnostic on Cooling Unit 3 when the alarms started. Red lights flashed throughout the control room. The gate's hum grew louder, deeper. It vibrated through the floor. "Power spike!" Lisa shouted, running to her console. "The gate is drawing energy from somewhere. It's too much." Vincent grabbed a phone. "Seal the facility. No one in or out." Danny watched through the window as the gate blazed brighter. The colors intensified until they hurt to look at. The metal ring began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. "Containment field is fluctuating," Karen called out. She stood at a security station, her hand hovering over emergency controls. Danny felt it then. A pull, like standing too close to the edge of a cliff, like gravity had turned sideways. The gate was not just making light anymore, it was pulling, drawing things toward it. Small objects in the sealed room began to slide across the floor. Papers, tools, a chair tipped over and scraped toward the ring. "We need to shut it down." Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard. "It's not responding. The manual override is in the containment room." Danny did not think. He just moved. He grabbed his toolbox and ran for the door to the sealed room. "Torres, stop!" Vincent yelled. But Danny was already through. The pull was stronger here, much stronger. He leaned into it, fighting his way toward the control panel on the wall. His toolbox dragged behind him, getting heavier with each step. The gate screamed, not a sound, a feeling, like the universe was tearing open. Danny reached the panel. His fingers found the emergency override. He pulled the lever. Nothing happened. Behind him, something exploded, a shower of sparks. The magnetic locks on the equipment racks failed. Heavy metal containers began sliding toward the gate. Pain woke Danny up. His shoulder throbbed. His head felt like someone had hit it with a hammer. He opened his eyes and saw darkness. No, not complete darkness. A faint glow came from somewhere above. Colors moved in the shadows, blues and greens that pulsed like a heartbeat. Danny tried to sit up. Every muscle screamed at him. He had landed hard on something solid. His hands touched the surface beneath him. It felt wrong. Not metal, not stone. Something in between. It was smooth but also had texture, like looking at static on an old television. He forced himself to his knees, then to his feet. The world spun. He put out a hand to steady himself against a wall. The wall felt warm. It moved slightly under his touch, like breathing. Danny jerked his hand back. His training kicked in. He had done emergency response courses when he first got hired. Check yourself for injuries. Assess your situation. Find shelter. Find water. Signal for help. He checked his body. Bruises everywhere. His left shoulder was badly hurt, but not broken. A cut on his forehead was bleeding, but not too badly. He could move. That was good. His toolbox was gone. His radio was still clipped to his chest, but when he pressed the button, nothing happened. Just static. His phone was in his pocket, but the screen showed no signal. The battery was at 15%. He turned it off to save power. He still had his multi-tool on his belt, the heavy one with pliers and screwdrivers and a small knife. He pulled it out. The weight of it made him feel slightly better. Now he needed to figure out where he was. Danny looked around. He stood in a large space, like a warehouse or hangar. The ceiling stretched high above, lost in shadows. Those pulsing lights ran through it like veins. They provided just enough light to see shapes but not details. The walls curved in ways that hurt his eyes. They were not quite vertical. The angles were wrong. Danny had studied engineering, had built things his whole life. He understood structures. But this place did not follow any rules he knew. And the smell. Copper mixed with ozone, mixed with something rotting. It made his stomach turn. He started walking. His boots made soft sounds on the floor. Each step echoed strangely, like the space was both too big and too small at the same time. After a few minutes, he found what might have been a doorway, an opening in the wall that led to a corridor. The pulsing lights continued here, running along the walls and ceiling like circuit boards made of living tissue. Danny walked carefully. Every instinct told him to be quiet. Something about this place felt dangerous, predatory. The corridor branched. He chose left, marking the wall with his knife so he could find his way back. His father had taught him that when they went hiking. Always mark your path. The corridor opened into another large space. This one had structures in it, towers or pillars or machines. Danny could not tell which. They rose from the floor like trees made of that same not-metal material. Cables or vines connected them, carrying those pulsing lights. Between the towers, he saw movement. Danny froze. Something crawled across the far wall. It was big. Maybe the size of a dog. It had too many legs. Its body looked like it was made of pieces, metal pieces, organic pieces, things that should not fit together but did. The creature stopped. Its head, if it was a head, turned toward Danny. He could not see eyes, but he felt it looking at him. He did not move, did not breathe. The creature made a sound, a chittering, clicking noise. Then it crawled away, disappearing into the shadows between towers. Danny waited a full minute before moving. His heart hammered in his chest. His hands shook. He needed to think, needed to understand. The gate had brought him here, wherever here was. That meant it was a doorway, a connection between his world and this place. If it was a doorway, he could go back through. He just needed to find it. But looking around, Danny saw no gate, no ring of metal, no swirling colors, just this nightmare of wrong angles and breathing walls. He kept moving. Staying still felt more dangerous than exploring. The next room he found looked different. It had purpose. Equipment lined the walls. Not equipment he recognized, but he could see it was meant to do something. Panels with symbols that might have been controls. Screens showing images he could not understand. Cables running everywhere. This was a control room, or something like it. Danny approached one of the panels. The symbols glowed faintly. When he reached out to touch them, they changed color. Responded to him. He pulled his hand back quickly. A sound made him turn. Footsteps. Multiple footsteps. Heavy ones. He looked for somewhere to hide. Spotted a gap between two large machines. He squeezed into it just as something entered the room. 3 creatures. Bigger than the first one. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarity ended. Their bodies were a horrific mix of flesh and machinery. Tubes ran under translucent skin. Metal plates covered joints. One of them had a head that was half skull, half camera lens. They moved through the room with purpose. One of them worked at a control panel. Its fingers, too long and too thin, touched symbols with practiced ease. The screen changed, showing images that flashed too fast for Danny to follow. He watched them work. They were intelligent. They used tools, operated complex machinery, but something about them seemed wrong. Hollow. Like they were not really thinking, just following instructions programmed into them. After 10 minutes, they left. Danny waited longer, making sure they were gone before coming out of hiding. He looked at the panel they had used. The screen still showed images. He studied them, trying to make sense of what he saw. One image showed the room he was in. Another showed different rooms, corridors, large open spaces. It was a map of this facility. Danny's mind raced. He was in some kind of structure, a building or base. And if there was a map, there might be an exit, might be a way to call for help. He touched the screen experimentally. It responded, cycling through different views. He tried to memorize what he saw, the layout, the paths, where things connected. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. One of the images showed a large chamber filled with those biomechanical creatures. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They stood in rows, perfectly still, like soldiers waiting for orders. Another image showed cells, prison cells, and in those cells were creatures, different kinds, different shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien. All of them looked terrified. This was not just a building. It was a facility, a processing facility. And Danny was starting to understand what it processed. He heard more footsteps approaching, more of those creatures. He could not hide here anymore, could not risk being seen. Danny ran. He chose a corridor at random and moved as fast as he dared. Behind him, he heard that chittering sound. They had found something, maybe his footprints, maybe his smell. They were coming. He ran faster. The corridor twisted, branched. He took turns without thinking, just trying to put distance between himself and the sounds behind him. He burst into a new room and stopped. This place was different, smaller. It looked like it had been abandoned. Broken equipment lay scattered on the floor. The lights here were dimmer, some of them dead completely. Danny spotted a corner where 2 machines created a gap, a defensible position. He squeezed into it, pulling a piece of broken panel across the opening. It was not much, but it was something. He sat in the darkness, breathing hard, listening. The sounds of pursuit faded. They had lost him. For now. Danny pulled out his multi-tool. examined what he had: pliers, screwdrivers, a knife, wire cutters. Not much to defend himself with, not much to work with. But he was an engineer. He solved problems. That was his job. That was what he was good at. He looked around his hiding spot. Broken equipment surrounded him. Some of it was so alien he could not begin to guess its purpose. But some of it looked almost familiar. The underlying principles were the same. Power sources, circuits, mechanical connections. If he could understand even a little bit of this technology, maybe he could use it, make tools, make weapons, make a way to survive. His emergency training said to wait for rescue, to stay put, to conserve energy. But Danny knew the truth. No one was coming, not soon enough. The gate had closed behind him. He had seen it happen. Vincent and Lisa would be trying to reopen it, but that could take days, weeks, maybe longer. He could not wait that long. He needed food, water, better shelter, information about this place, and he needed a plan. Danny started going through the broken equipment, sorting pieces, testing them. His engineering mind worked through the problem. Power source here, connector there. If he attached this to that, maybe it would work. Hours passed. Maybe. Time felt strange here. The lights never changed. No day or night. Just that constant pulsing glow. He managed to create something useful, a small device that made a spark when he pressed it. Not much, but it could start a fire. Could be a weapon if he got desperate. He also found something that looked like a battery. It still held a charge. He connected it to a broken panel and watched the symbols light up. They showed information he could not read, but numbers he recognized. Measurements, readings, data. Danny studied the numbers, tried to find patterns. His stomach growled. His throat was dry. He needed water soon. He heard sounds outside his hiding place. Different sounds this time. Not the chittering of those creatures. Something else. Something that sounded almost like speech. Danny peered through a crack in his barricade. 3 figures moved through the room. They were not human. Not even close. But they walked upright. Wore something that might have been clothing. They moved with caution, looking around nervously. One of them made a sound. The others responded. It was language. Actual language. They were prisoners. Had to be. Escaped from those cells he had seen on the map. Danny made a decision. He could not survive alone. He needed allies, even alien ones. He pushed aside his barricade and stepped out. All 3 creatures spun toward him. One of them raised something that might have been a weapon. A piece of metal shaped into a club. Danny raised his hands. Showed he was unarmed. Well, mostly unarmed. They stared at each other. Human and alien. All of them lost. All of them trapped in this nightmare. One of the aliens stepped forward. It was smaller than the others. Its skin glowed faint blue in the dim light. It made a sound, gestured to itself, then to Danny, then to the corridor. Danny understood. Come with us. He nodded, grabbed his makeshift spark device and the battery pack, stepped out into the corridor. The blue alien led the way. The other 2 fell in behind Danny. Protecting him or guarding him, he was not sure which. They moved through the facility, taking paths Danny had not seen, avoiding areas where those biomechanical creatures patrolled. The aliens knew this place, had learned its rhythms. They brought him to a hidden space, a damaged section where the walls had collapsed, creating a cave-like area. Inside, Danny saw more aliens, different species, a dozen at least. Danny spent the next 3 days learning to survive in hell. The alien refugees showed him the basics: where to find water, collected from condensation on the walls, which areas to avoid because the biomechanical guards patrolled there, how to move quietly through the corridors. The blue alien, the one who had first approached him, became something like a friend. Danny started calling him Blue in his head. Blue seemed curious about Danny. Would point at things and make sounds, trying to teach Danny words in his language. Danny tried to teach English back. Neither of them got very far, but they understood each other where it mattered. Through gestures and drawings scratched into the floor, Danny learned the truth about this place. It was a processing facility. The aliens had been brought here from different worlds through different gates. Some had been here for months. One had been here for over a year, if Danny understood the gestures correctly. The biomechanical creatures were not robots. They were converted prisoners. The facility took living beings and transformed them into those horrific hybrids. Servants for something vast and terrible that controlled everything. No one had ever escaped. The gates only opened from the outside. The facility was sealed tight. But Danny was different. He was human. And humans were good at one thing above all others, refusing to accept the impossible. On the fourth day, Danny started exploring on his own. He had a mission now. He needed to understand this technology, needed to find its weaknesses. Blue came with him. The aliens seemed to understand that Danny was planning something dangerous. They moved through the facility during what Danny thought of as shift changes, times when the biomechanical guards all moved to different positions at once, windows of opportunity that lasted maybe 10 minutes. Danny found a storage area, row after row of equipment. Some of it looked like weapons. Others were tools. He took what he could carry, tested them in safe places to see what they did. One device created a small energy pulse. Another cut through metal. A third generated light so bright it hurt to look at. He brought everything back to the hidden camp. The other aliens watched as he worked, combining pieces, creating new tools from old ones. His engineering knowledge translated better than he expected. Energy was energy. Circuits were circuits. The principles were universal, even if the technology looked alien. He built a better weapon. Something that could fire those energy pulses with more control, tested it on a piece of debris. The metal melted where the pulse hit. The aliens grew excited. They had never seen one of the prisoners fight back, never seen someone create rather than just hide. Blue brought Danny something. A data device recovered from a destroyed probe. One of Earth's probes. Danny's hands shook as he held it. He connected it to his makeshift power supply. The screen flickered to life. The probe had been through the gate months ago. Its cameras had recorded everything before the facility's defenses destroyed it. Danny watched the footage, his heart sinking. The probe had mapped huge sections of the facility, shown the processing chambers where beings were converted, revealed the true size of this nightmare. It was massive. Miles of corridors, hundreds of chambers, thousands of those biomechanical servants. But the probe had also found something else. A communication array, a way the facility sent and received signals, coordinates to other worlds, other gates, other places to harvest victims. Danny paused the footage, stared at the array. It was deep in the facility, heavily guarded. But if he could reach it, if he could understand how it worked, maybe he could send a message, call for help, warn Earth. He looked at Blue. The alien watched him with those large, intelligent eyes. Danny made a decision. He started planning an assault. Over the next 2 days, he taught the other aliens how to use the weapons he had built. Most of them had never fought, never needed to. But desperation made quick students. He drew maps on the floor using the probe data. Showed them the path to the communication array, explained through gestures what they needed to do. Some of the aliens refused, too scared, too broken by months of captivity. Danny did not blame them, but Blue stayed, and 5 others, 7 in total, counting Danny. Not an army, barely a squad, but it would have to be enough. They gathered everything useful, every weapon, every tool. Danny strapped the energy pulse device to his belt, kept his multi-tool in his pocket, checked his phone battery, still at 8%. He would save it for something important. Blue touched Danny's shoulder, made a sound that might have been encouragement, or a prayer. They left the hidden camp during the next shift change, moved fast and quiet through the corridors. Danny led, using the probe's map burned into his memory. They encountered their first patrol after 10 minutes, 3 biomechanical guards turning a corner ahead. Danny raised his hand. The group stopped. He aimed his weapon and fired. The energy pulse hit the first guard center mass. It went down without a sound. The other 2 turned toward them. Blue and another alien fired their weapons. Energy pulses and makeshift projectiles hit the guards. They fell, their mechanical parts sparking. The group kept moving. No time to think about what they had just done. They fought through 2 more patrols, lost 1 alien to a guard's blade. The others dragged the body into a side room. No time to mourn. Keep moving. The facility seemed to wake up around them. Alarms began to sound. Lights pulsed faster, turning from blue-green to red. The guards would be converging on their position. Danny ran faster, around corners, down corridors, following the map in his head. The communication array was close, had to be close. They burst into a large chamber. And there it was, a tower of alien technology reaching toward the ceiling. Cables and conduits running from it in all directions, screens displaying symbols and images from 1,000 worlds. But between them and the array stood a dozen guards. More were coming. Danny could hear their footsteps echoing through the corridors behind. Blue shouted something in his language. The other aliens formed a line, raised their weapons. Danny understood. They were buying him time. He ran for the array while his alien companions fought. Energy pulses filled the air. The sounds of combat echoed off the walls. Someone screamed. Not human, not biomechanical. One of his friends dying. Danny reached the array's base, looked up at the controls, symbols he could not read. Technology beyond anything on Earth, but numbers were numbers. Mathematics was universal. Signal processing followed the same basic rules everywhere. He pulled out his multi-tool, started prying open access panels, exposed circuits and power conduits, traced the pathways with his eyes, saw how energy flowed, how data moved. Behind him, Blue cried out. Danny glanced back. The alien was down, clutching its side. The guards pressed forward. Danny worked faster, found what looked like a signal processor, bypassed the alien controls, exposed the raw hardware underneath. His phone. He still had his phone. 8% battery. He pulled it out. Used his multi-tool to strip wires from the array. Connected them to his phone's charging port. The phone screen flickered. Error messages appeared. Then disappeared. The alien technology and human technology fought each other. Incompatible systems trying to connect. Come on, Danny thought. Come on, come on, come on. The phone screen changed, showed signal strength, 5 bars, impossible bars, broadcasting on frequencies that should not exist. Danny opened every app that could send data. Messages, email, everything. He typed fast. Coordinates from the probe data. Warnings about the facility, about the gates, about the invasion being planned. He hit send on everything. Prayed it would reach someone. Anyone. A guard grabbed him from behind. Danny spun, lashing out with his multi-tool. The blade cut through cables and flesh. The guard fell. More were coming. Too many. Blue was still alive. Barely. The alien looked at Danny across the chamber. Nodded once. Danny understood. It was time to go. They had done what they came to do. He grabbed Blue and pulled the alien to its feet. The 2 remaining companions formed up around them. They ran for the exit. The facility had fully awakened now. Every alarm was blaring. Every guard was converging on their position. The walls themselves seemed angry, pulsing with red light. They made it 3 corridors before the guards cut them off, ahead and behind, no escape. Danny raised his weapon, fired, took down 1 guard, 2. But there were too many. This was it. This was where it ended. Then the walls exploded. Karen Webb came through the breach like an avenging angel. She wore tactical gear Danny had never seen before. Her weapon fired rounds that punched through the biomechanical guards like they were paper. Behind her came a full squad. Human soldiers in advanced armor. They moved with precision. Every shot counted, every movement purposeful. Vincent Hall was with them. And Lisa Monroe. The whole rescue team had come through. Karen reached Danny, grabbed his arm. "You are the hardest man to keep track of," she said. Danny almost laughed, almost cried. He was not sure which. "We got your signal," Lisa shouted over the sounds of combat. "Every frequency, every channel, brilliant work." "I have friends," Danny said, gesturing to Blue and the other aliens. "We can't leave them." Vincent did not hesitate. "Bring them all. Nobody gets left behind." The soldiers formed a protective circle, moved as one unit back toward where the gate would be. The rescue team had managed to reopen it, stabilize it. It was waiting, but the facility was not letting them go easily. Guards poured in from every direction. The walls themselves seemed to writhe and reach for them, and then Danny felt it. A presence. Vast. Ancient. Aware. The masters of this place had noticed them. The air grew thick, heavy. Reality itself seemed to bend. Shadows moved independently of light. Sounds came from directions that did not exist. Something was coming, something so much worse than the guards. The team ran, fought, ran some more. Danny carried Blue when the alien could not keep up. Other soldiers helped the remaining refugees. They burst into the chamber where the rescue team had set up their equipment. And there it was. The gate, swirling with those impossible colors. Beautiful and terrible. A doorway home. Lisa was at the controls. "It's not stable. The facility is fighting us. I can keep it open for maybe 2 minutes." "Move! Move! Move!" Karen shouted. The soldiers went through first, then the alien refugees. Blue looked back at the facility one last time before stepping through the gate and disappearing in a flash of light. Danny started forward, felt that vast presence growing closer. The masters were almost here. He could feel them in his bones, in his mind, enormous and hungry and old beyond measure. "Danny, now!" Vincent grabbed him and pulled him toward the gate. Behind them, the walls tore open. Something emerged. Too big to process, too wrong to understand. It reached for them with appendages that existed in too many dimensions. Danny and Vincent jumped through the gate together. For a moment, Danny was nowhere, everywhere, floating in colors and light and pure energy. He could see both worlds at once, the facility behind, Area 51 ahead, the gate itself, a thread connecting impossible places. Then he was through, falling onto hard concrete, fluorescent lights blazing overhead, the familiar smell of oil and metal and coffee. Home. Lisa slammed her hand on the emergency shutdown. The gate collapsed. The swirling light died. The metal ring went dark and silent. The medical team cleared Danny after 3 days. Bruised ribs, sprained shoulder, dehydration, malnutrition, nothing permanent. His body would heal. His mind was a different story. He kept seeing those corridors, hearing the sounds of the guards, feeling that vast presence reaching for him through dimensions. He sat in a debriefing room with Vincent, Lisa, and Karen. They had been talking for hours, going over everything that happened, everything he had learned. "The probe data you recovered is invaluable," Lisa said. She had dark circles under her eyes, had not slept since the rescue. "We're analyzing it now, the facility's structure, its purpose, the technology." Vincent leaned forward. "Danny, you saw things we never could have imagined. How many prisoners were there?" "Hundreds in the cells I saw, maybe thousands in other sections." Danny's throat was dry. He drank from a water bottle. It tasted like heaven compared to what he had been drinking. But that's not the worst part. "Tell us," Karen said. "The facility wasn't just processing prisoners, it was preparing for something, an invasion. The communication array had coordinates to dozens of worlds, some already conquered, some in the process, some just being watched. Including Earth, Vincent said quietly. Danny nodded. Our gate is marked on their system. They've been observing us for a long time. The facility is just one part of something much bigger. Lisa pulled up images on her tablet. The alien refugees have been helping us understand. This entity, this presence you felt, it's some kind of interdimensional intelligence. It spreads across realities, takes over worlds, converts populations into servants. How do we fight something like that? Danny asked. We prepare, Vincent said. We've already started. The Joint Chiefs have been briefed. The President knows. Resources are being allocated. Karen pulled out a folder, set it on the table in front of Danny. We're creating a new division, Defense Against Interdimensional Threats. We need people who understand what we're facing, people who have been there. Danny opened the folder, saw his name, saw a job title he did not recognize. Technical Director, Gate Research and Defense Initiative. You want me to lead this? He asked. You're the only human who has survived that place, Vincent said. You understand the technology better than anyone. You've seen their tactics, their weaknesses. I'm just a maintenance engineer, Danny said. You were a maintenance engineer, Karen corrected. Now you're the man who escaped an interdimensional prison, built weapons from alien technology, and sent a warning that might save our entire planet. That's a different job description. Danny looked at the folder, looked at the three people watching him. Good people, brave people. But they had not seen what he had seen, had not felt that presence, that hunger. If I do this, he said slowly, I need full access to everything. The gate, the alien refugees, the probe data, everything we've ever learned about what's out there. Done, Vincent said immediately. And I need a team, not just scientists, engineers, soldiers, people who can think creatively, people who won't give up when things seem impossible. You'll have whatever you need, Lisa said. Danny closed the folder, looked at each of them. Then yes, I'll do it. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. Danny moved into a new office 3 levels below his old workshop. It was 10 times the size and filled with equipment he was still learning to use. Blue stayed at the facility. The alien had nowhere else to go. None of the refugees did. Earth was not their home, but it was safe. The scientists were learning their languages, building trust, gathering information about the interdimensional threat. Blue became Danny's unofficial assistant. The alien understood technology in ways that were different from human thinking. Between them, they started making sense of what they had recovered from the facility. The probe data was a treasure. It showed not just the one facility, but connections to others. A network spread across realities. Danny and his team built a map, plotted what they knew, marked the gaps. One morning, Karen brought Danny a report. We've been monitoring the gate. It tried to activate on its own last night. Danny looked up from his work. Tried. Lisa shut it down before it could fully open. But Danny, something on the other side, was attempting to force it open. They both knew what that meant. The Masters had not forgotten about Earth, would not forget. Danny called a meeting with his core team, Lisa and her scientists, Karen and her security force, Vincent and the military liaisons, and Blue, who understood the enemy better than any human. They gathered in a conference room around a holographic display of the Gate network. We need to go on offense, Danny said. Waiting for them to come to us is a losing strategy. You want to go back through? Lisa asked. That's insane. Not to the same facility, but we need to understand their network better. Find weak points, maybe find allies. Blue made a series of sounds. The translation software they had been developing turned it into rough English. Other worlds, still fighting, could help. Vincent studied the map. If we could make contact with other resistance forces. Share technology, coordinate. It's a huge risk, Karen said. We barely got you out last time. Everything is a risk now, Danny said. They know about us. They're coming eventually. We can wait for that to happen. Or we can prepare. Learn. Fight back. Lisa touched the holographic display, zoomed in on one of the marked gates. This one. The probe data suggests it's a smaller facility, less defended. If we're going to try this, that's our best option. Danny studied it. She was right. The facility looked more like an outpost than a processing center, still dangerous, still potentially deadly, but possible. We'll need a bigger team this time, Karen said. Better weapons, better planning. And an exit strategy, Vincent added. We need to be able to shut down the gate from our side if things go wrong. They planned for 2 weeks, ran simulations, built new equipment based on what Danny had learned, trained a strike team on what to expect. Blue helped design weapons that could fight the biomechanical guards. The aliens' knowledge combined with human engineering created something new, something powerful. Finally, they were ready, or as ready as they could be. The strike team assembled in the gate chamber. 12 soldiers, Danny, Karen, Blue. All of them wearing advanced armor, all of them carrying weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Lisa was at the controls. Her hands shook slightly as she initialized the gate sequence. Target coordinates locked, power levels stable. You'll have 2 hours before I start the recall sequence. Vincent stood with them. He was not going through. Too valuable to risk, but he shook everyone's hand. Come back, all of you. The gate activated. Those impossible colors swirled. The metal ring hummed with power. Danny checked his weapon one last time, looked at Karen. She nodded, looked at Blue. The alien's skin pulsed with bioluminescence. Nervous or excited, Danny was not sure. Let's go meet the neighbors, Danny said. They stepped through. The transition was easier this time. Danny knew what to expect. The moment of floating, the colors, the feeling of being pulled through space that was not quite space. Then solid ground, different from last time. Not a processing facility. They stood in what looked like ruins, ancient buildings made of stone and metal. Overgrown with plants that glowed faintly in the dim light. The sky above was wrong. 2 suns, one red, one blue. They cast double shadows. The strike team fanned out, checked their surroundings, weapons ready. A sound made them all turn. Movement in the ruins, multiple contacts. Danny raised his hand. Hold fire! Figures emerged from the shadows, not biomechanical guards, living beings, aliens of different species. They wore armor made from scavenged materials, carried weapons that looked primitive but effective. One stepped forward, tall, 6 limbs, covered in scales that shifted color. It spoke in a language Danny did not know. Blue responded. The 2 aliens communicated. Gestures and sounds. The translation software worked overtime, catching some of it. Blue turned to Danny. Resistance. They fight masters. Many years. The scaled alien made more sounds. Blue translated. They ask why we come. Danny stepped forward, lowered his weapon. Tell them we're here to help, to learn, to fight together. Blue translated. The scaled alien studied Danny for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been a laugh. It gestured to the ruins, an invitation. The resistance had made a base in the ancient city. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of worlds, all refugees, all fighters. They had been battling the interdimensional empire for years. Small victories, mostly defeats. But they had not given up. Danny and Karen met with their leaders. Through Blue's translation and the software's help, they communicated, shared information, showed each other technology. The resistance was amazed by human weapons, by Earth's understanding of physics and engineering. They had been fighting with whatever they could scavenge, had never had proper manufacturing, proper design. In return, They shared what they knew. Maps of the gate network, locations of facilities, patrol patterns, weaknesses in the Empire's systems. One of the resistance leaders, a being that looked like living crystal, showed Danny something important. Master's fear. One thing. What? Danny asked. The crystal being pulled up a holographic display, showed a structure, massive, at the center of the gate network. Control hub. Masters live here. All gates connect. Destroy this. Destroy network. Danny stared at the image. It was enormous. Defended by thousands of guards. Maybe more. Getting close would be impossible. Has anyone tried? Karen asked. The crystal being made a sad sound. Many try. All fail. Masters too strong. Danny studied the layout. His engineering mind worked through the problem. Every system had weaknesses. Every structure had failure points. He just needed to find them. Can we access more data on this hub? He asked. Schematics, power distribution, anything? The Resistance had been collecting information for years. They shared everything. Danny downloaded it all to his portable drive. Gigabytes of data, blueprints, surveillance, intelligence. Karen's radio crackled. Lisa's voice came through, distorted but clear. Strike team, you have 30 minutes to recall. Danny looked at the Resistance leaders, at Blue, at Karen. We need to come back, build an alliance, coordinate our efforts, the crystal being understood. You have gate. We have fighters. Together, maybe we win. They exchanged coordinates, secure frequencies for communication, plans for future meetings. The strike team gathered at the gate coordinates. The Resistance watched them go. Some saluted in their own ways. Others made sounds that needed no translation. Good luck. Come back. Don't give up. The gate opened. The team stepped through. Back in Area 51, Lisa shut down the gate the moment the last soldier was through. Mission status? Success, Karen reported. We made contact, established communication, gathered intelligence. Vincent was waiting in the control room. And? Danny pulled out the data drive. We found allies, and we found a target. If we can hit their central hub, we can shut down the entire network. That's suicide, Vincent said. Maybe, Danny admitted, but it's possible. And possible is better than waiting here for them to come to us. Over the next month, everything changed. The Resistance started sending representatives through the gate, different species, different skills, all united in one goal. Danny's team grew. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists. Military tacticians learned from Resistance fighters who had been battling the Empire for years. 3 months after the first rescue, Danny stood in a hangar that had not existed a year ago. It stretched deep underground, carved out of solid rock. Inside were ships, not human ships, not alien ships, something new, something built by cooperation between worlds. The Resistance called them strike craft. Fast, heavily armed, designed to travel through the gate network and fight in environments that made no sense to normal physics. Danny walked among them, checking systems. His team had worked around the clock to make this happen. Human mechanics and alien engineers side by side. Blue had contributed designs that nobody else would have thought of. Karen found him near the lead ship. She wore combat armor, upgraded with technology from 3 different worlds. Final briefing in 10 minutes. Danny nodded, looked at the ships one more time. 40 craft, each carrying a mixed crew. Human and alien working together. It was not a large force, not nearly enough for a frontal assault, but that was not the plan. The briefing room was packed, strike team leaders, Resistance commanders, scientists who would monitor from Area 51, and Vincent, who had fought hard to approve this mission. Danny stood at the front, pulled up the holographic display showing the central hub, the heart of the interdimensional empire. You all know the target, he said. The hub controls the entire gate network, every facility, every outpost, every invasion force. It's their brain, their heart. Destroy it, and we cripple them. Lisa stepped forward. Our intelligence shows the hub is defended by approximately 5,000 biomechanical guards. And that's just what we can see. There are likely more inside. The good news, Karen added, is that they're not expecting an attack. Nobody has ever gotten close before. We'll have the element of surprise for about 30 seconds. Some nervous laughter from the crowd. Danny continued. We're splitting into 4 groups. Alpha team, led by Commander Hayes, will hit the outer defenses. Draw attention. Make them think that's the real attack. A human officer, Commander Hayes, nodded. Her team was the largest, 20 ships. Their job was to survive as long as possible while being shot at. Not a job Danny would wish on anyone. Bravo and Charlie teams will take out the power stations here and here. Danny pointed at the holographic display. The hub's shields run on massive energy requirements. Cut the power, the shields drop. Blue's team was Bravo. The alien had proven to be a natural leader, had earned respect from both humans and resistance fighters. Delta team goes for the core. Danny highlighted the central structure. That's me, Karen, and 12 others. We plant the charges, blow the whole thing. Get out before it collapses. If it works, someone said. When it works, Danny corrected. Vincent stood. I won't lie to you. This is the most dangerous mission any of us have ever attempted. But if we don't do this, they'll keep coming. Keep harvesting worlds. Keep turning populations into slaves. We have a chance to end this. Maybe the only chance we'll ever get. He paused, looked around the room. I'm proud to serve with all of you. Human, alien, doesn't matter. You're all heroes. The briefing ended. Teams dispersed to their ships. Danny walked with Blue toward the strike craft hangar. Scared? Danny asked. Blue made a sound. The translator rendered it as terrified, but also hopeful. First time in long time. They reached Danny's ship. The name painted on the side said Defiance in English and 6 alien languages. Karen was already aboard checking weapon systems. Her crew was a mix. 2 humans, 3 aliens from the Resistance, all volunteers, all knowing this might be a one-way trip. Lisa met Danny at the boarding ramp. She handed him a small device. Emergency recall beacon. If things go completely wrong, activate this. I'll open a gate to your coordinates. Might not work, but it's something. Danny took it, clipped it to his belt. Thanks. For everything. Come back, she said. I mean it, Danny. Come back. I'll try. He boarded the ship, took his position at the controls. The strike craft was smaller than he was used to, but responsive. The controls were an odd mix of human and alien design. He had practiced for weeks. Knew every system. Vincent's voice came over the comms. All teams, this is command. You are go for launch. Good luck, and good hunting. The ships lifted off. One by one, they entered the modified gate. Lisa had configured it to drop them right at the edge of the hub's territory. Close enough to surprise the enemy, far enough to have a fighting chance. The transition through the gate was rougher this time. The ships shook. Alarms blared. Then they were through. Space, but wrong space. The stars were different colors. Galaxies spiraled in directions that hurt to look at. And ahead, the hub. It was bigger than the intelligence had suggested. A structure the size of a moon, made of that same organic mechanical material, covered in weapons, surrounded by defensive platforms. At its center, a massive gateway, the mother of all gates. Every connection in the network led here. All teams execute, Danny said into the comms. Alpha team broke away. 20 ships diving toward the outer defenses. The hub's weapons came alive. Energy beams lanced through space. Missiles launched. The battle began. Commander Hayes' voice was calm despite the chaos. Alpha engaging, drawing fire. Go, go, go. Bravo and Charlie teams split off, headed for the power stations on opposite sides of the hub. Blue's voice came through. Bravo team moving. See you on the other side, Danny. You too, Blue. Delta Team, just 5 ships now, dove toward the hub's surface, flying low, using the structure itself for cover. The hub was so massive that they could hide in its shadows, in the gaps between weapons platforms, but not for long. The biomechanical defenders noticed them. Smaller craft launched, interceptors, fast and deadly. "Break and engage," Karen ordered. The dogfight began. Delta Team's pilots were good, human reflexes combined with alien technology. They danced through enemy fire, took out interceptors with precise shots. Danny's ship shook as a near miss exploded beside him. He rolled, fired back, destroyed the pursuing craft. His heart hammered, sweat ran down his face, but his hands were steady. They reached the hub's surface, found an access port exactly where the intelligence said it would be. Karen's ship landed first. Her team was out in seconds, placing breaching charges. The explosion blew open the hull. They were in. Danny and Karen led their teams through corridors that were becoming familiar. Every facility had a similar design, same materials, same layout. The Empire was nothing if not consistent. They encountered guards immediately. The biomechanical servants rushed them. But Delta Team was ready. Human weapons and alien technology tore through the defenders. They fought their way deeper. Following the map, every meter was a battle. Guards kept coming, more and more. The hub was waking up. "Bravo Team at Power Station Alpha," Blue's voice crackled through static. "Heavy resistance, need time." "Charlie Team at Power Station Beta," another voice reported. "Same situation. These things don't want to die." Danny checked his position. They were close to the core now. "Alpha Team status?" Commander Hayes sounded strained. "Taking heavy casualties. Lost 6 ships. But we're still here. Still fighting." They reached a massive door, sealed tight. Karen placed charges, while the rest of the team held off another wave of guards. The explosion was deafening in the enclosed space. Through the door was the core chamber. And it was beautiful in a terrible way. A sphere of pure energy suspended in the center. Conduits ran from it to every surface. The power source for the entire hub. The connection point for every gate in the network. And guarding it was something worse than the biomechanical servants. Something that made Danny's blood run cold. The presence he had felt before. But physical now. Real. It was massive. Part machine, part living tissue, part something else. Something from dimensions humans were not meant to perceive. A servant of the true masters. Maybe a master itself. It spoke. Not in words, in feelings, in thoughts pushed directly into their minds. Humans, clever, persistent, annoying. Karen raised her weapon. "We're about to become a lot more than annoying." The battle was like nothing Danny had experienced. The entity moved in ways that defied physics. It was here and there and everywhere. Its attacks came from impossible angles. But the team had trained for this. Had prepared for enemies that did not play by normal rules. They spread out, coordinated fire, used the chamber's geometry against the entity. Danny ran for the core, pulled explosive charges from his pack, started placing them at critical points around the energy sphere. The math was simple. This much explosive in these positions would cause a cascade failure. The core would collapse. The hub would die. The entity noticed him, turned its attention his way. Danny felt its presence crushing down on his mind, trying to break him, to make him stop. But Danny Torres had been through the nightmare, had survived the processing facility, had escaped when escape was impossible. He was not going to break now. He set the last charge, armed them all. The timer started. 3 minutes. "Charges set. Everyone out!" The team ran. The entity tried to stop them, but Karen had saved something special. A weapon designed by Blue's people specifically for fighting these dimensional horrors. She fired it. The entity screamed. Not a sound. A feeling that made everyone's ears bleed. It gave them enough time. They made it back to the corridor, back to their ships. Danny's hands shook as he started the launch sequence. All teams, abort mission. Repeat, abort and withdraw. Core charges are armed. 2 minutes to detonation. Bravo team withdrawing, Blue reported. Power station Alpha destroyed, station offline. Charlie team confirms, another voice said. Power station Beta offline, shields down. Alpha team is clear, Commander Hayes said. What's left of us? Moving to extraction point. Danny's ship lifted off. The rest of Delta team followed. They flew low across the hub's surface. Behind them, the core chamber's countdown continued. The hub's weapons fired, tried to stop them. But with the shields down and power fluctuating, the defenses were weaker, slower. They made it to open space, saw the other teams converging. Fewer ships than had started, so many fewer. The hub began to shake, deep tremors running through its massive structure. The core was failing. Gate opening, Lisa's voice came through. Clear and strong. Emergency extraction. Come home. The gate bloomed in space, a circle of impossible colors. The most beautiful thing Danny had ever seen. The ships raced for it. The hub exploded behind them. Not all at once, in stages. The core failed. The energy sphere collapsed. The cascade spread. Section by section, the massive structure tore itself apart. Danny's ship shook from the blast wave. Alarms screamed. He pushed the engines harder. The gate was close, so close. He went through first, felt that moment of transition, saw both worlds at once, the hub dying behind him, Area 51 ahead. Then he was through. In Earth's space, safe. Other ships followed. Blue's craft came through damaged but intact. Commander Hayes made it with 3 of her original 20 ships. Charlie team's leader, a few others. Not enough. Not nearly enough. But more than Danny had dared hope. Lisa shut down the gate. Monitoring the network. Signals are going crazy. Gates are shutting down across multiple realities. The hub's destruction is cascading through the entire system. Vincent's voice was thick with emotion. You did it. You actually did it. Danny sat in his ship, hands still on the controls, unable to believe it was over. Karen's face appeared on his screen. She was crying and smiling at the same time. We won, she said. Holy hell, we actually won. The celebration lasted 3 days, but the work was just beginning. The interdimensional empire was crippled, but not destroyed. Facilities were still out there. Gates still existed. The fight would continue. Maybe for years, maybe for generations. But Earth was no longer a victim, no longer prey waiting to be harvested. 1 week after the mission, Danny stood in his lab. It had grown, expanded to include workstations for alien scientists, for resistance engineers, for everyone who had chosen to stay and help defend this world. Blue worked at a console nearby. The alien was designing a new type of sensor, something that could detect gate activations before they completed. Early warning for future threats. Karen entered. She had been promoted. Head of Earth's Interdimensional Defense Force, the first of her kind. Hopefully not the last. The president wants to meet you, she said. Give you a medal. Make a speech about heroes and sacrifice. Danny made a face. Can I say no? Absolutely not. You're the face of this thing now. The maintenance engineer who saved the world. I had help. A lot of help. I know. So does the president. That's why she wants to meet the whole team. Humans and aliens. Show the world what cooperation can achieve. Danny looked around his lab. At the mix of human and alien technology. At Blue, working alongside human engineers. At the future being built from the ruins of the old world. Fine, but after that I've got work to do. We're building a new gate network, one we control, for travel, not invasion, for exploration, not conquest. Karen smiled. You really think we can do that? Build something better than what the Empire had? I know we can, Danny said, because we're not building it alone. We're building it together. Vincent appeared in the doorway. Danny, we're getting signals from other worlds, resistance groups, free planets. They all want to join our network, want to form an alliance. How many? 17 so far, more coming in every day. Danny felt something he had not felt in months. Hope. Real hope. The Empire had tried to turn the multiverse into a prison, had tried to break every world, convert every population, rule through fear. But they had made one mistake. They had pushed humanity, and humanity had pushed back hard. Now the gates would serve a different purpose. Connection instead of conquest, alliance instead of invasion, freedom instead of slavery. Danny walked to the window, looked out at the Nevada desert above. Somewhere up there, normal people lived normal lives, went to work, came home, never knowing how close they had come to losing everything. That was okay. They did not need to know. As long as Danny and his team were watching, as long as the gates were guarded, as long as good people from every world stood together. Blue joined him at the window. "What do you think?" the alien asked. "Future looking good?" Danny smiled, thought about his job, his normal boring job fixing air conditioners and replacing light bulbs, about how much had changed. How much he had changed. "Yeah," he said, "I think it's going to be all right. Better than all right." Behind them, the lab hummed with activity. Human and alien voices mixed together, planning, building, preparing. Not for war, but for what came after. The Gate Network was dead. Long live the Gate Network. And Danny Torres, former maintenance engineer, current defender of Earth, keeper of the gates, was ready for whatever came next. Because if there was one thing he had learned, it was this. Humans were really, really good at turning the impossible into the inevitable. And now, working with friends from across the multiverse, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The nightmare was over. The future was just beginning. And it was going to be amazing. They built new weapons, better armor, developed ships that could travel through the gates, combined the best of every world's technology. Blue became a liaison between species. The alien had a gift for understanding different types of thinking, different approaches to problems, and Danny worked on the plan, the impossible plan, the strike at the heart of the interdimensional empire. He knew the odds, knew that most of them would not come back, knew that even if they succeeded, the cost would be terrible. But he also knew that humanity had never been good at accepting defeat, had never been good at backing down from a fight. If the masters wanted a war, they would get one. And they would learn what humans were truly capable of when pushed to the edge. For a moment, the only sound was breathing. Heavy, exhausted, alive. Then Vincent started laughing. Karen joined him. Soon everyone was laughing and crying and checking that everyone had made it through. Danny sat up, looked around. The alien refugees huddled together, terrified but safe. Blue gave him what might have been a smile. Hard to tell with alien features, but Danny felt it. They had done it. Survived. Escaped. Won. But as medical teams rushed in and scientists began examining the refugees and soldiers secured the area, Danny looked at the dark gate and felt a chill. They had escaped. But that presence, those masters, they knew about Earth now. New humans had come through, had escaped, had fought back. This was not over. This was just beginning. They had made a camp here. Scraps of material for bedding, crude tools, containers that might have held food or water. The blue alien gestured to a container. Danny looked inside. Liquid. He did not know if it was safe to drink, but he was so thirsty. He took a small sip. It tasted metallic, but not poisonous. His body did not reject it. He drank more. The aliens watched him carefully. Danny sat down, looked at his unlikely companions. They looked back. None of them could speak the same language, but they did not need to. They all understood one thing. They were all prisoners, all victims of whatever ran this place. And together, maybe they could survive. Danny turned to run back to the door. That was when he saw Karen Webb inside the control room, her hand on the door release. She was going to try to help him. "No!" he shouted, but his voice was lost in the roar. The pull increased. Danny's feet left the floor. He grabbed for something, anything. His hands found nothing but air. The gate filled his vision. Colors that should not exist. Light that felt alive. The feeling of falling without falling. Danny Torres tumbled through the impossible ring and into somewhere else. The last thing he heard was his own scream. Then silence.